Okay, so we're live now on YouTube, and I just made you host.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for some of the participants to arrive, and we'll start shortly.
Good morning, Dr. Gloria. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Prof.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to another session of the International Conference on Data Science, Machine Learning, and International and Artificial Intelligence. Specifically, today is the Faculty of Computing and Informatics Research Day. We couldn't hold the FCI Research Day last year because of the pandemic. Fortunately, we're able to do it again this year. Today promises to be jam-packed with lots of interesting research and presentations, not only from the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, but from a diverse range of researchers focusing on information, communication, and technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Gloria Iyawa, a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Computing and Informatics. Please join me to welcome the Associate Dean for Research and Innovation, Professor Bunu Shava, to give the welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, invited guests. Good morning to our researchers. On behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, I'll be delivering the welcoming remarks. So, Director of Ceremonies, allow me to welcome our invited guests to our special day today. As already introduced by Dr. Iyawa, today marks our research day as the Faculty of Computing and Informatics. We are very honored to be running this research day under the auspices of our honorable or our distinguished conference, the first data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence conference that we are hosting as an institution. I would like to thank Professor Samuel John for taking a short notice invitation to come and represent our Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation in opening our session. We look forward to great deliberations. Our Professor John is an expert in artificial intelligence, robotics, and he's also a civil engineer. So we believe it is befitting for him to come and open this day for us. Our keynote speaker for the day, Professor Amit Kumar Mishra, I would like to welcome you to our event. We are honored to have you this morning, and we believe that you are going to share a lot of wisdom with us, knowing that your research interests are in radar signal processing, AI, and other related fields. We believe that you are going to add a lot of value to the deliberations through your keynote speech this morning. Our project services unit support officer, as well as the deputy director, Ms. Rene Munyai, would like to welcome you on board as you will be sharing with us how we can effectively do research within the institution. Your support is always welcome. We are great researchers within the institution because of the support that you offer to our staff, the support that you offer to our students, and the partnerships that you introduce and prepare for us as a faculty and as an institution. Welcome to our meeting. And I would also like to welcome all our participants, our guest speakers, our researchers who are going to share their innovation that they have toiled to produce over the years. We are delighted to have such a wide array of research that will be showcased under our 4 niche areas as a faculty. I've the pleasure to notice that our research interest in secure and smart cities, smart environments, our research in indigenous knowledge, technologies, our research in digital transformation, our research in data analytics are all represented. And thus, we are showcasing the diversity of the research that we have in the faculty. I would like to invite all the guests that have logged in to stay with us throughout the day, because at the, later in the day, we are going to also have an African research focusing on 4IR, and I believe that is befitting for all of us to engage and to know how these 4 niche areas we focus on in our faculty can actually enhance the research at national level and international level as we address the economic and societal needs of our era. It's no doubt that we are depending on technology for all our operations, be it at social, business, or educational level. And as such, no other better place than this platform today as researchers, as we meet, can we come together and discuss how we can shape the future of the computing research, as well as other research areas in the digitized economy that we are living in. With this, I would like to welcome you all on board. I hope we have the members of the media who also take the flagship of our research across the nation and share with everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our FCI Research Day 2021. Thank you, Director of Ceremonies.
Thank you very much, Professor Bunushava, for the welcoming remarks. So moving on to the next item in the program. In terms of research at NUST, we can't really talk about research without a special team, always ready to give your support, just like Professor Bunushava said. So I would like to use this opportunity to appreciate our project services unit. Please give them a round of applause. We can do that digitally. Either turn off your microphone, turn on your microphone, just give them a round of applause, but just show some support, love. Okay. So on behalf of the Project Services Unit, I would like to call on Ms. Reni Muyai to talk about research and innovation support.
Thank you so much. I made a presentation, Madam Chair, and I would want to present, I would want to project my presentation.
Okay.
If you could enable me to share, please.
All right, I'll do that. Okay, I think you should be able to do that now. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reni Muyai. I'm with the Project Services Unit. Thank you for a higher title that I was given earlier by Professor Bunu, but I'm a projects coordinator within the Project Services Unit. And it's a great honor, as usual, to work with the Faculty of Computing and Informatics. We are here to serve you, and we are always excited to be part of your processes. We are one of the faculties with a team of active researchers that always contribute to new information, innovation, and better ways of doing things. So in line with today's theme on accelerating computing and industry, 4.0 technologies in challenging times, we really want to appreciate the role the Faculty of Computing and Informatics is playing. Even when it comes to multidisciplinary research, we know if we really want to forge ahead with ICT support for research and development, we would need to partner with the Faculty of Computing and Informatics and your cutting edge research is much appreciated, and it's quite exciting to always work closely with this particular faculty. I'm going to give a brief overview of the role of the Project Services Unit in terms of research and innovation support. This is a presentation I'm making on behalf of Dr. Anna Matros-Koresis, the Director for the Project Services Unit. She extends her apologies due to other prior engagements. She's not able to be here, but she's very excited to share this presentation with you. So in brief, this is the contents or the outline of my presentation. I'm going to give a highlight of the Project Services Unit profile, some of the flagship achievements over the years, the challenges and risks associated with research and innovation, lessons that we've learned from providing support to the NAST research and innovation community, as well as the technological research project support, which is the direction the university is taking, as well as the research office support functions. In terms of our mission as a unit, the Project Services Unit is there to promote, support, and facilitate externally funded grant and project management services in order to enhance multi or interdisciplinary research capacity, innovation, and development in all fields of applied science and technology. We respond to the priorities of the university and the niche areas for the various faculties, as well as the interests of the NAST research community. What we're calling achievements is what we have learned and mastered over the years. Through the work we have done with a number of other research offices across the globe, we have learned to understand research environment, linking researchers to partners. Over the years, we have mastered some skills, and we have a highly committed team that is willing to provide service. And we have been able, with the support of SARIMA and the IPRC, to be able to draw on board a number of partnerships, not only the effort of the unit, but in partnership and collaboration with the faculties and the various centers of excellence within the university. In terms of the submissions we've supported over the years, we have noted an 18% success rate, which is quite high. The average in a number of research offices is 10%. So you would anticipate of all the applications you've put through, 10% would actually be funded, but we've seen that number increasing over the years. And this is a reflection of the strong collaboration between the faculty, the various faculties and research centers within the university, as well as the commitment from the unit itself. We have seen that multidisciplinary research has increased threefold since the formulation or the establishment of the Project Services Unit. And we have over the years 52 projects with a combined project value of in excess of 504 million Namibian dollars. We also have supported third-party income amounting to approximately 15.8 million since the inception in 2012. And we also have noted a backload to 3 donors, which is STREAM and GIZ. In terms of the project values, as of January of 2021, you would realize, I wish to actually explain this particular slide better. You realize there's a greater interest of projects that have been brought through or funded, and the majority of it, 64%, is aligned to the sustainable development niche area. I am still projecting the niche areas of the PSP4 because this database is actually based on the data that we've generated over the years in line with the PSP4 niche areas. We also realize there is a lot of funding that has been secured, research that has been executed. We're aligned to the indigenous knowledge thematic areas, and to a lesser extent, the technology area, And lastly, to a lesser extent, yeah, you'll find, sorry, I mixed up the numbers there. 26% was actually energy, renewable energy to a large extent, 26% sharehold, and 3% that is aligned to indigenous knowledge. So in terms of our profile of donors, you realize a significant chunk of the funding has been EU funding, with a sharehold of 39%, and to a lesser extent, BMBF. We also have been able to secure funding from the Embassy of Finland, and the NCRST, especially when it comes to local funding. The National Commission on Research, Science and Technology has provided some significant funding locally. So to a large extent, we are still realizing that in terms of contribution, financial contribution to our research, the EU still has the biggest sharehold. Looking at the grant funding spread across institutional entities, this is not a reflection of the number of projects that have been secured by the faculties. Rather, it's a reflection of the monetary value of the projects that have been brought in by the various faculties. And Faculty of Health and Applied Sciences, Faculty of Natural Resources, Faculty of Engineering, and Faculty of Computing and Informatics have actually brought in significant funding in support of projects. What then are the challenges and risks? One of the major challenges that we've encountered over the years is competing priorities with research and teaching and learning. You realize at times researchers do have a keen interest in undertaking research, but the major challenge is when the funds have been secured, at times we find researchers are not able to successfully implement their work timelessly as a result of other competing responsibilities. And not only when it comes to already secured funding, but we have also realized that due to competing responsibilities, we have lost opportunities over the years. 81 calls identified and only 10 responses at times. So you realize our uptake rate is not as high as we would want to. So opportunities are being identified, but not always taken advantage of due to pressing responsibilities. And as I indicated, the issue of project implementation lagging behind, as well as a few times we've had to request for no-cost extensions, increasing institutional reputational risk. The other challenge that we've encountered over the years is researchers' capacity being to some extent limited or not fully optimized. I think that's more accurate, not fully optimized. And the associated risk is we also find ourselves with lower research impact, even when it comes to our research outputs are lower than what we have envisaged when the project is conceptualized. And at times we find we fail to consistently align and deliver in line with the institutional focus areas. And we have also noted to some extent there are certain fields that we have really not taken up much research. You realize capacity might be one of those areas. And we still have just a handful of very strong, and when I'm saying very strong, there are certain researchers that we are well aware of. And the Faculty of Computing and Informatics have some of those very strong researchers who, if they are able to put together an application, you're almost guaranteed it will be funded. But it's the dependency on the small pocket of researchers, which are very strong, which is a major concern. And probably looking forward, it then becomes critical for us to see how we can strengthen research capacity, especially of emerging or young researchers. And the other challenge is increasing donor dependency. As a result, we miss out on opportunities. We also realize proposal writing fatigue, especially if there is a high dependency of support from a centralized unit. And at times we have realized financial system discrepancies and limited support in some areas when it comes to financial management at the faculty or departmental level. And the bigger challenge with this is we end up compromising on the quality of our deliverables. So that's a major risk in itself. And we, in as much as we're very keen as the university with with industry, we realize that it's not yet our very strong area, and moving into the future, it's one of those areas we really need to unpack to say, how do we strengthen our university industry links? The risk of having not so strong university industry links will be at times the lack of visibility of the research and innovative work that our researchers are doing. And I think in this current focus, we would want to move into research with impact. And in order to do that, we'll have to have a better understanding of the requirements of industry in order for us to come up with solutions to the problems that industry is encountering. And what I want to mention, this particular slide speaks to the new focus. We are anticipating a transition for being a project services unit to become a research development directorate, which means the unit will now have a broader mandate if it's now a directorate. And some of the key areas we'll be focusing on will be on supporting research groups for their creation, consolidation, and getting the SGR labels. We are hoping we'll be able to provide better orientation for the assessment of research activities. We have one thematic area that will be looking at special projects. In this particular area, we're looking at facilitating and supporting the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of transdisciplinary projects with social economic impacts linked to the NAST research niche areas. There will be a greater focus on research ethics, which is looking at promoting, fostering, and supporting research ethics and integrity, compliance, and responsible research conduct. We'll also be looking at tools, providing cutting-edge tools and research repositories. To this end, the university management and research dissemination tools will be strongly put forward for the research community to tap into. In so doing, we anticipate that research data and research information management, measuring and demonstrating research impact will improve. There will be a greater focus on training as well. In so doing, we anticipate organization of workshops and training sessions on themes of interest with collaboration of experts in the field, not only experts locally, but drawing on international expertise where possible. The directorate will also be looking at postgraduate support, and this will entail support to postgraduate students and researchers' development across the research pipeline within the different organizational settings. We'll still retain the element of research financing and mobilizing, so support in applying to research call grants and follow-up of projects and help with reporting and or justification will be anticipated to continue. This area we have already been strong with and would anticipate as the project services unit transitions to a directorate, this particular pillar will also continue to be strengthened. And within it, we'll also still see the Research Development Directorate providing support in terms of contracts and partnerships, doing the necessary due diligence prior to signing of contracts and facilitating the necessary reviews internally and externally in order to protect the reputational risk of the organization and the research community at large. So this is the new direction in terms of broadening of the mandate of the project services unit. Will be extending beyond, to a large extent, we have been quite strong on resource mobilization and providing monitoring and evaluation support, but you realize in the picture that I've presented that the mandate will be extended, and with it will be a requirement to also have specialized skills to provide this particular support. So this is the future. It's based on what is anticipated, what we are hoping to achieve as the mandate and the support of this particular unit expands. To a large extent, these priorities are a reflection of what we have learned from other projects we've been involved in. In the past few years, we're actually involved with a STORM project, where we were really looking at how do we strengthen research, the capacity of research management offices in terms of the whole research grant management. And these are the key lessons we have learned and some of the areas that we realized we need to really extend our support beyond just resource mobilization and monitoring and evaluation, as well as contract management. This particular slide speaks to some of our key funding. So the resource availability, I'm not only saying it's limited to this, but I'm just flagging some of the huge grants we have in place. So we have got the Erasmus Plus Key Action 1, valued at plus or minus 328 million euros. Erasmus Plus Key Action 2, looking at about 2 million euros. African Union Research Grants 2, focusing on research and development focus, and funding availabilities plus or minus 17 million euros. There is also Science Granting Council's initiative, and we have actually been able to get funding for plus or minus 3 projects, one focusing on biotechnology, another one focusing on food security, and another one focusing on water security, valued at plus or minus 2.8 million Namibian dollars. We also have Dutch scholarships, and the Faculty of Computing and Informatics has been a major beneficiary for Dutch scholarships. And we actually appreciate the imprint, the footprint of the faculty in terms of building capacity of young researchers and emerging researchers through this particular scholarship. We also have the SADC GIZ program on climate resilience and natural resources management in the SADC region, and also valued at plus or minus 500,000 euros. We are also proud to be associated with the UNESCO Research Chairs, and I want to acknowledge that currently we have the Faculty of Computing and Informatics is the only faculty currently within the university with UNESCO chairs. We are proud of the 2 UNESCO chairs that are currently sitting within the faculty, and also acknowledging that there is a 3rd one that is actually currently under consideration. So in as much as the research chairs, when it comes to the UNESCO research chairs, don't come with funding, they come with the necessary they come with the necessary esteem, which would actually enable our esteemed researchers leading this particular chairs to mobilize additional resources, because the UNESCO chairs are respected worldwide. So we anticipate having an increased stream of funding coming in support of those particular research chairs. And we're really looking forward to a 3rd chair being secured within the university through the Faculty of Computing and Informatics. This particular slide speaks to the High-Tech Transfer Plaza Select. NAS proposes the jointly mutually beneficial partnership with following strategic propositions, regionalizing HTTPS concept. What you also see here are not just necessarily the limited partners, but these are the partners that are currently on board, and we anticipate as the High-Tech Transfer Plaza Select continues to grow, we'll find additional partners coming on board as this particular vision materializes. So in summary, Project Services Unit, research support focus, we can easily acronym it and say it VCI. V representing visibility. We try and increase institutional, national, and international reputation for research activities. Collaboration, we try and support and foster a transdisciplinary research culture and a culture of increased research productivity, building in strengths of our research community with special emphasis in the research niche areas of the university. And we are currently trying to also draw from the various ongoing strategic planning processes to identify the new niche areas that will continue to support for the next 5 years, as well as looking at impact, increasing the application and economic and social impact of research and innovation. Gone are the days when we'll just want to focus on just basic research. Basic research is very important, but we also really want to be able to provide solutions to the various stakeholders. This is currently the small team that is sitting under the Project Services Unit with the director right at the top, Ms. Nadia on the far right. She's the Finance and Administrative Coordinator. And on the far left of the screen, you will find the project coordinators, myself, Rene Munyai, and my colleague, Bas Reinan, and our monitoring and evaluation analysts who are really able to consolidate all the data and figures that I was projecting today. So there we have got our project analyst, Ms. Victoria Shipanga. Thank you very much. We continue to look forward to planning, prioritizing, and partnering with the Faculty of Computing and Informatics as we continue to increase our footprint as a university of excellence and leading the research and innovation space within Namibia and the world at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Munyai, for that. That was an interesting overview of research activities and projects at NOST. Moving on to the next activity in our program, we have our keynote speaker for today, who is an innovator, a systems thinker, and an engineering educator, interested in system engineering, signal processing, and applied machine learning. He has worked in a range of domains, starting from defense and space to remote sensing and healthcare instrumentation, focusing on the use of data science, machine learning, along with design thinking to innovate solutions. He has 2 US, 1 UK, 1 South African, and 3 Indian patents to his credit. He's a senior member of the IEEE, and he's also a professor at the University of Cape Town. In his keynote speech, he's going to talk about bio-inspired sensing. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome our keynote speaker for today, Professor Amit Kumar Mishra.
Thank you. Am I audible, Gloria?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thanks for the lovely welcome, Gloria, and good morning to everyone. Without further ado, let me get started with my presentation. We have reserved some time at the end of the presentation, very short time, for question and answer as well. So if you have any queries, note them in, or maybe put in your chat window, and then towards at the end of the presentation, we shall go through them. Okay, very quickly about myself. I did my undergraduates in India, then postgraduate in Edinburgh, Scotland. Then I worked in India, Australia before coming to South Africa to join the University of Cape Town, where I have been for the last 10 years working in the domain of radar and telecommunication system design, sensor design. Currently, with the emerging of the new generation of AI tools, a lot of work with industries on the application of machine learning and AI, and also a bit of work on cognitive engineering, which is brain-inspired work. And because we are in African continent, we have to always be mindful about the fact that our innovations have to also be inexpensive. So that's what we call frugal innovation, where we try to innovate focused solutions, which should be inexpensive and effective. Okay, coming to the main theme of the talk, bio-inspired sensing. If we tell about inspiration from biosphere to engineers or even common people, one of the animals that come to our mind is bat, because we know that bat is kind of a sonar, and because they can't see in the night, they use sound to navigate. Now, the story of bat is way more fascinating than that. So this is from a paper published in Nature almost 2 decades back. What the scientists tried to do here is quite interesting. They took this particular type of bat called pollen feeding bat. So they basically go to flowers and eat the pollen. And they took one of the flowers that the bat has evolved to feed on, and they took 3 types of flowers of the same plant. In the first flower, the flower has bloomed properly, and it has got proper nectar. The second flower, it does have nectar, but it hasn't bloomed properly. The third flower, it has bloomed, but there is no nectar in that. Instead, the scientists put some water in that. Now, what you see below here is the return of the sound that the bat has sent to these flowers. You can see that the reflection from the flower is very strong only when the flower is fully bloomed and it has got nectar. when the flower has not bloomed or when it doesn't have proper nectar, the return or the reflection from these flowers is almost negligible. Now, what does it imply? It implies that the bats actually are very clever. They are doing two things at a time. Most of the AI or machine learning engineers, if you ask them about the steps they take in implementing a solution, the first thing is that, you get lots of feed. Let's say, for example, you are trying to recognize some person in a crowd. Then you are getting constant feed of video. And from that, you have to first detect and then recognize. So that's mostly the steps followed. From the feed you get, from the sensory data you get, you first detect there is an event, then you recognize. The bats are actually doing both of them together. Not only that, that actually happens outside the brain, because when the strength of the signal is strong, that automatically imply that there is something that the bat should fly into. So the intelligence has kind of been distributed to the sensor part. Second thing that we mostly do in current generation of sensor system design and AI is that we have the sensor part and we have the smartness part. In any smart sensor, there is the sensor part, which is dumb, and then we have the smartness. Now the bat sensor is already having some smartness because the reflection is strong only when there is a thing of interest. Now and because of that, the bat's brain is tiny. It doesn't have to do a lot of processing because part of the intelligence has been exported to the sensor. Now, what else can we get from these small animals? Then I discovered that there is a whole field in biology called neuroethology, where they try to study the cognitive development in the brains of small animals. And it's a very fascinating field because while people are quite justifiably trying to model human brain, let's accept that human brain is pretty complicated. It's mostly a blue sky research. For an engineer, if we want to implement some kind of brain, we have to look at the brain of smaller animals, which are smaller, of course, and they are less complicated. They don't have so many layers going on. So it's a fascinating field for AI engineers to look into. And then, okay, a few things that we can see here. Now, how did the bat develop this thing? So it is not just the bat that has developed to have this kind of sensors. In nature, there is never evolution. There is always co-evolution. So multiple organisms, they evolve together. So while the bat sensor is developing over generations, the flower's design is also evolving over generation, because bat going to the flower is beneficial to both the species. The bat gets its nectar and the flower gets pollinated. So in nature, it's always co-evolution. And that's where, from our point of view, from engineering point of view, it's a matter of system of systems. When we are trying to design one system, we cannot be aloof of other systems. In fact, when you are aware of all the systems, our design becomes elegant and simpler. And of course, in addition to that, they do a lot of things in the small brains that the bats have. We'll discuss this thing later when we discuss another kind of animal, which I try to study. Last thing I will mention about bats, it's again very fascinating. It's something called hyperacuity. So those of you who have done some work in sensor design and sensor signal processing, we know that the resolution of a sensor is physically limited by physics by the expression of c upon twice bandwidth. C can be the speed of light if we are using light sensor, or whatever sensor signal we are using, that C can represent the speed of that signal in that medium, divided by twice the bandwidth. Sorry, I think there was some kind of noise there. Yeah. But many biological systems, they actually achieve better resolution than that. So for example, for bats, it's sound system, right? So C will be the speed of sound in atmosphere, and bandwidth will be the bandwidth of the bat sensor, the mouth through which it is emitting the signal. Now, let us say C by twice bandwidth give us the value of 5 millimeter. When the scientists have tried to study, the bats can actually avoid the obstacles which are thinner than that. So the bats actually can achieve resolutions better than what physics suggests. Now, how do they do that? Of course, the multiple ways they do that. But the fact is that most animals, they achieve resolutions better than what their sensors actually suggest. Yeah, and that brings us to the next thing that I thought, okay, how do they do that? All these things like co-evolving with another species, and secondly, achieving better resolution, they are always possible when the animals evolve in a niche ecosystem. You take out the animal from that ecosystem, they will not perform as well. So there is always a requirement that the animal has to evolve in its own ecosystem. Now, if we translate that to engineering point of view, then it becomes, okay, when we are developing an instrument, if we develop the instrument for a highly specific use, then we can actually make something that is cheaper, simpler, and more effective. Then I called it application specific instrument, ASIN. And the idea was that, okay, if we can take data that we don't have to analyze exactly, but we directly use a machine learning system to predict its output. And the fast work that I did implementing this philosophy or this new method of designing science instruments is a work for Honeywell Technologies, where we're developing radar systems to measure the volume of sludge in big oil storage tanks. And the initial idea was to have transmitters and receivers on a platform that will move on the top of the tank, so that with moving sensors, we get different profiles of the sludge that has been settled down, that has settled down. From that, we create a profile of the sludge, and from the profile, we find the volume. Now, this means the instrumentation will be more complicated because we have to move the sensor, then you have to take care of the phase difference and all those things. My suggestion was that, okay, can we not skip the middle step? We don't need to recreate the profile of the sludge. If we can directly find the volume of the sludge, then that's good enough, right? So we just used one transmitter and two receivers. And then from the return that we get, we trained a machine learning model, a simple support vector machine, to directly predict the volume of the sludge. And surprisingly, that worked pretty well. And then it was patented by Honeywell. And I think currently they are using that solution in some of the instruments that they are designing. Second place where I try to use that in fake medicine detection or counterfeit drug detection. Now, this is a big problem especially in the developing world, because from the statistics from WHO last year, the fake medicine business is more than $10 billion. So it's a huge industry, and that affects real people in real ways. For example, assume a healthcare worker who is working in some rural village in Africa or in India, and then he or she has been given these medicines, and these medicines have to be given to the patient. Now, if the medicine is fake, then the patient will not recover, right? So that's a big cause of mortality in developing worlds, in rural areas. Now, how do you test a medicine for its genuinity? The best possible way is taking it to an NMR machine and trying to find out the chemicals. There have been a lot of work on that, and some of the less expensive ways have suggested that you can use Raman spectroscopy to create a spectrogram of the chemical of the medicine that you are giving, and then find out the chemicals in that, and then you can find if it is genuine or not. Now imagine somebody working in a rural village. Does she have the time to go to the nearest town to access these instruments? Secondly, does she have the capability to study an NMR or Raman spectroscopy based spectrogram? No, these things take time and these things are expensive and they need specialized manpower. If you think about the problem, now for a healthcare worker in the field, she just need to know whether this medicine that she is giving is genuine or not. Let's say she is giving paracetamol. She just need to know it is paracetamol or not. It's a yes/no question. We don't have to analyze that. So we developed this very hacked spectroscopy-based method in which, of course, because Raman spectroscopy was supposed to work good, so we tried to use something that can emit infrared. So we took a tungsten bulb, which could emit some infrared radiation. And we put the medicine in a solution-based mode in front of that. The light passes through that. And we used broken DVD to get the reflection. This basically was our hacked spectrogram. Now to record that, we used an inexpensive webcam. Most inexpensive webcams actually are sensitive to IR. That is why they have an IR filter on top of them. We just broke it and took the filter apart. So now it can sense IR. We took those images and tried to build a database. Now this system will only work for which you have trained it for. Now we trained it for 4 different medicines, and you can see that the accuracy we got were quite great. Now you can ask, okay, what if I need to use it for a different medicine? The beauty is that the system with the healthcare worker does not have to be changed. The model works in cloud. Only the model has to be changed. So the same hardware can be used for multiple medicines. Yet introducing a new medicine to the system just needs that you take the measurements and upload that in the model that is running on the cloud. So it's a very elegant and simple solution. Hopefully, we shall get some collaborators and funding agencies to actually make a product out of that. Now, quickly moving to the next innovation based on bioinspiration. I was in a interesting conference in which there was the curator from the museum in Paris, and he was telling his experience that he was trying to play sound recorded in rainforests. And then, in rainforest, it's full of life, different kinds of species, like hundreds of different kinds of animals and insects and all kinds of stuff. They're all trying to create sound to find the prey, to avoid their predator, to find a mate, and all those kind of things. So it's a big cacophony of sounds. Now, this guy was saying, okay, how exactly then they distinguish from all this cacophony that what is the sound emitted by the animals of their species? How do they even find anything from this sound? Now, what he found, of course, from research by other biologists, is that even though it's a mixture of all kinds of sound, it creates kind of an orchestra. Now, in orchestra, even if there are multiple instruments being played, you can actually identify what is being played, right? So similarly, the animals do not rely on individual sounds. Rather, they listen to the whole orchestra. And from that, they can actually distinguish when they are being approached by a predator or when they have got a mate trying to call for them and those things. And that gave me an idea, okay, something similar is already happening in our vicinity. If you think, we have got so many types of wireless devices all around us. Everywhere we are sitting, we are actually sitting in an orchestra or cacophony of wireless transmissions. Now, from all the transmissions, can I find out my event of interest. And that was the second patent I filed. I call it ComSense, or communication-based sensing. And the idea was that, let us only deal with one kind of communication. So I dealt, and for most digital communication, the transmitter actually sends a bunch of data, which is already known by the receiver, and the receiver uses those bunch to find out the properties of the channel, which is then filtered out, so that the effect of channel is filtered out. Now, the idea was to use that channel information, which is actually very sparse. You don't get a lot of things, because for GSM, you basically get 51 numbers. So that represents everything happening in your channel. In LTE, it's a bit bigger, but that's still, it's very, very sparse. From that kind of sparse information about the channel, you can't pinpoint that, okay, this is a man, this is a bike, this is a cup, whatever. But my hypothesis was that, okay, forget about pinpointing different objects. Can I find events of interest? So we designed a receiver and took it to the nearest railway station. We tried to measure the channel information when there was no train and when there was train. And then we just tried to see using PCA, well, they are actually clustering, which is actually a good thing. So we can actually distinguish between two events. And then we try to make the problem more and more complicated, trying to detect the number of vehicles in the parking spot. And the recent most work that we have done is we have used the same system to find out the volume of crowd in a constrained space, because in the post-COVID world, to control how many people are there in a room, it will be useful if we can just measure the size of crowd in a space. And we have found that this actually can detect the size of the crowd very easily. And we have also tried to use it to detect human beings behind the wall and those kind of events. Moving forward, that is the hardware that we have designed for that. Okay. We are now have finished discussing about the projects with results. I'll quickly discuss some projects which are still running. So you don't have a lot of results for that. So that's weekly electric fish, which is a kind of small fish that we find in Amazon and Nile. So this fish is basically blind. So it uses electric signal to navigate. It's almost like a small radar system. And I tried to study its neuroethology, like how its brain is processing the signal. And I think when I'm towards the end of the talk, so I'll not go through detail of this. The gist is that what the fish does is that it takes the signal from its receiver signal string, and then it transposes into multiple layers of two-dimensional matrices. And each of these layers have been trained over generations of evolution to detect certain events. Again, the same principle is going on here. So the fish is not trying to look at everything that is happening around it. It's rather has got trained through evolution to only be responsible for certain kinds of events of interest. And now it hardly needs any basic, intelligence to do its job. But the thing is that even with this kind of basic structure, it can do a lot of stuff. The same sensing sensors, the same set of transmitters and receivers are actually used by the fish to do three things. Number one, navigation. Number two, communication. And number three, finding its prey or predators. So this is the architecture that I have developed, which we are trying to develop, and hopefully it will be useful for IoT or edge intelligence. Right. Okay, let me. The next work I'll just mention is I also did some work with one of my PhD students here, where we are trying to study how does the hypothalamus in our human brain works. And one of the things that we found is that hypothalamus basically pre-processes our sensory data before the data goes to cortex. And one thing that it does with our visual data is that it transposes, it transforms it through a log polar mapping, because by log polar mapping, it knows where to focus, and the areas around the point of focus, they are sampled quite finely, and the areas far from the point of focus are sampled quite coarsely. That reduces the amount of data quite drastically. And in our work, we showed that even though it reduces the amount of data, it does not affect the performance of a pattern classification algorithm. So that was a kind of visual cortex inspired architecture that we proposed. And from some trivial innovations, one we have already discussed about the fake medicine work. And quickly looking, this is another small work where we try to design a tunable LED-based lighting system, which could be used to illuminate the veins in the arm. Extremely useful for pediatric patients who have to get frequent intravenous injections. And in the other one, we developed an African language-based chatbot for new mothers. And then in the last one, we developed a smartphone-based ECG monitor. There are multiple projects like that, and you can find, but the novelty of my approach was that the hardware outside the smartphone was made extremely inexpensive, because we didn't use the analog to digital converter outside the smartphone, because ADC is one of the expensive parts in any ECG sensing front end. We thought every phone already has an ADC, because every phone's sound card already has ADC. Why can't we use that instead? So the front end basically had some circuitry with a pretty powerful instrumentation amplifier, and that's it. Then it is sent through the audio jack to the sound card, and there it is sampled, and some signal processing algorithms, because the bandwidth actually don't match properly, but at least we ended up getting quite clean ECG on the smartphone. Right, that brings me to the end of the talk. So 2 take homes I would suggest. The biosphere is actually a wealth of tricks and inspirations. And just to add here, IEEE Computer Science Society has allowed us, or actually sanctioned us, to form a new society on bio-inspired computing. So if you just Google for IEEE bio-inspired computing, it will take you to that page, and the membership is currently free. So I will encourage you guys to become members of this new society. And secondly, it's a very interesting point. Richard Feynman always points it out, that we should not be over enthusiastic while trying to get inspired from nature, because aircrafts don't exactly flap their wings. So with this, I will end my talk. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask or send in the chat window. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Amit Kumar Mishra. That was an interesting discussion on the application of bio-inspiration sensing in areas such as fake medicine detection, hyperAcuity, and sound mapping and communication-based sensing. It's also interesting to see the different ongoing projects in this domain. Thank you very much for that presentation. That was really refreshing. So we are able to take one question live. So if you have any questions for Prof. Mishra, please send it on the chat. We can take one question. Okay. All right, so if there isn't any question, please feel free to send a chat, on the Zoom chat. Send a message on the Zoom chat, and we'll take your questions. He will take your questions. So thank you very much for this.
Really. There's a question from Prof. Ming in the chat.
Okay.
I think it's more of a compliment. And thanks, Professor
Oh,
Khan.
it's a compliment.
Compliment.
Thanks, Dr. Khan.
Okay. So he's still available. If you have any questions, you can send him a chat. All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Actually, my question was addressed to the previous presenter. Is on the question on the REDD, research development. Yeah. If we can. Do you see it? It's on the chat.
Okay. Okay. So the question on REDD. Okay, I think that's for Ms. Muyai. So how the team, research impact would be implemented, taking into account the need to run valid and credible evaluation of a researcher's grading instead of the current limited mainly in the number of publications. I don't know if she's still around, Ms. Muyai.
I'm actually on the line. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the question. Maybe you can give a quick overview to this question.
And the question from Prof. Mingi is how the theme research impact will be implemented, taking into account the need to run valid and credible evaluation of a researcher's grading instead of the current limited mainly in the number of publications. This is a topic that is still being worked on. I think I cannot preempt and say we now have an improved system in place, but I think this is a discussion that probably we might have to have with Associate Dean's Research and Innovation, collectively with the Deputy Vice Chancellor on Research and Innovation. It's not an answer that will automatically come from our office per se. It will have to be a collective position we have as a university on how are we going to ascertain, how are we going to actually give credibility to the various outputs, what criteria will we be using? If we currently believe the current one is limited because it's only focusing on publications, then we need to have a discussion around broadening it. And it's not a discussion that will only be held with a new directorate, but it will be solutions coming from the researchers represented by the Associate Deans Research and Innovation in collaboration with the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation. So I don't have a straight answer for you, sir. But I think this is something that we need to take up to say moving forward, what are the current limitations of the current grading system and how can we enhance on it in order for us to have a wider criteria that acknowledges the contributions in terms of research and innovation from the various researchers within the university. I don't have a straight answer for it. My apologies for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Miyai. Okay, so at this point, I would like to call on Professor Samuel John from the Faculty of Engineering to give us the opening remarks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this opportunity. This opening remark was supposed to be presented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation. Unfortunately, he's got another engagement right now, and he asked me to read his speech on his behalf. And before I read the speech, just a comment on the last question. And I think, Rainy, you gave a good answer. This is Professor Muyingi, you know, this is something that we need to discuss as a university-wide. Right now, the ranking and even the criteria for promotion is based on counting the number of publications. And I think we need to get a little bit more deeper into the quality of the publications themselves. And a quality assessment, I think, needs to be developed to support the current quantitative assessment. But having said that, let me thank the Director of Ceremonies, Dr. Gloria Yawa. I'm meeting you for the first time. I've been here for quite a long time, so I know virtually everybody. So I'm seeing a new face, and nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Acting Dean of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, Dr. Colin Stanley, my good friend. Dr. Anna Matros, I think she's ably represented by Reni Muyai, also from the Project Services Unit. And our keynote speaker at this opening of the Research Day, Professor Amit Kumar. I must say that I am quite impressed with your work. Several years ago, I visited a university in Germany who also concentrates on bio-inspired developments. And I think I wish I would have invited all the control engineers, automation engineers from the Faculty of Engineering to attend your presentation. I would like to get your contact because I think I can see possibilities of us doing some partnership. Myself, I'm in control systems. And so it's a very important field for us. Professor Fungai Shava, Associate Dean, Research and Innovation. Professor Dharam Singh, the TPC Chair, DSMLAI and Faculty IRPC member. Professor Jose Konom, DSMLAI Local Conference Chair. I've not seen you guys for a long time. I think COVID have been keeping us apart. Invited speaker, Mrs. Tulimengameno Amutenya, Data Processing Manager, Namibia Statistics Agency, NSA. And of course, our invited speaker, Professor Nilanja Dey of the GIS University, India, who is also the ACME DSP speaker, Dr. Hena Rathore, University of Texas, San Antonio, and then the ACM DSP speaker, Dr. Shamungam Balamuruga, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Director of Research and Development, Albert Einstein Engineering and Research Labs. Delegates, researchers, members of the media, good morning. The Faculty Research Day is an annual event that provides an excellent opportunity for students and faculty to showcase their research activities with economic and societal benefits and addresses some of the topical issues facing us today with the university and the public community. The NAS researchers and the public will have an opportunity to hear from the international speakers, just like the presentation we've just heard, very, very inspiring presentation, and researchers on emerging technologies and their challenges. This event elevates awareness and appreciation of faculty research endeavors across departments, faculties, and industry experts. It fosters the exchange of information and the cross-fertilization of ideas and encourages the development of multidisciplinary efforts. This year's Faculty Research Day is organized in conjunction with the International Conference on Data Science, Machine Learning, and Artificial Intelligence, or in short, DSMLAI, under the theme, Accelerating Computing and Industry 4.0 Technologies in Challenging Times. The event will feature the African Research Symposium with 2 ACM distinguished speakers. Director of Ceremonies, the Research Day will create an atmosphere of discussion among professionals worldwide and enlarge the NAS network in computing and informatics. Additionally, the Faculty of Computing and Informatics has improved its status as a contributor to the global frontier of knowledge. Our research output and international presence are indicative of this status. We look forward to contributing towards achieving a shared knowledge-based society. And with these few remarks, I would like to wish everyone a successful research day and fruitful reflections. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Sam John. Okay, Thank you very much. So before we move on to the presentations, I would like to announce that the next section for the presentations of the research will begin at 9:50. Sorry, at 9:50. So there's a link which I just shared now on the chat. So you can follow that link to attend the technical sessions. Okay. All right. So before that, I would like to call on Prof. Bunu Shava, the Associate Dean for Research and Innovation, the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, Dr. Yawa, for giving me this opportunity. On behalf of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics, it is an honor for me to deliver the closing remarks. And today, we will be engaged by our researchers who are the trailblazers in the areas of specialization. So is invited from 9:50, we are going to be enjoying and listening to them. I hope we are going to be inspired and stimulated. Thank you, Professor Samuel John, for officially opening this session for us. You have shared about how you see the value of the research that the faculty is doing and the support that we receive from the Office of the DVC Research and Innovation and the NAST community at large. Thank you so much for taking your time to come and grace us at this ceremony. To our keynote speaker, Professor Amit Mishra, we are honored to have you as our guest speaker. We had an opportunity to peek into a small window of your impactful research work, and this has just reminded us that the innovations we enjoy in every aspect of technology by the greatest inventors are all inspired by the inventor of all times, God himself. The solutions to take challenges that we face can all be solved by inspiration that comes from the biosystems, the human or the body systems, the biological systems that we have, a mimic of how problems can be solved. Of course, I took note of your caution that an aeroplane does not flap its wings, regardless of the fact that it's inspired by how the birds fly. That is very important for us to remember as we learn from the natural environment, from our ecosystems, and implement the way the environments respond to stimulus in solving problems that we face in our day-to-day lives. Thank you so much. And we look forward to being part of that IEEE bioimmunosystems and contribute to groundbreaking research within that area. Ms. Munyai, thank you so much for sharing the vision of the institution in supporting our research and innovation portfolio within the faculty and across the institution for the betterment of the nation. With the 3 chairs, or I can say 2.5 for now, since the other one is still to be formalized and finalized, we definitely are going to be needing that kind of support in responding to the core mandate of those chairships. And as you already know, that the chairships respond to 3 of our 4 key research niche areas. Hence, we no doubt need that kind of support in achieving the goals. The financial support, the grant writing support that you provide for us is very key and essential to achieving those goals. Furthermore, the integration and the networks that you provide for us to get sponsorship, scholarships for full-time students is very critical in achieving our research goals. Having benefited from the DAAD funding, we experienced what it means to have full-time postgraduate students who drive the research agenda for the faculty. And we are proud to have had outcomes from their groundbreaking research, which covers all the different spheres of our research, and also to have graduates that are proud to be associated with our university who are still showcasing their research skills out there. So we are challenging you and your office to create synergies where we can get more opportunities. We are dreaming of having postgraduate or postdoc fellows in our faculty, and that can only happen if we've got funding. Of course, we still need to fund our M&Ds. So we are believing that in the Tech Transfer Plaza Select, you are going to have a dedicated section for our faculty, for we are going to make the best use of that space and ensure that we disrupt the environment by the solutions that we are going to be creating. I would also like to thank our Dean, Acting Dean Dr. Stanley, for the support that he provides for enabling research to happen within the faculty and for us to achieve the R&I mandate for the institution, as well as to have teaching and learning that is inspired by the work that we are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed researchers and presenters for the day, I would like to invite you to enjoy the fruitful day, interacting, challenging, interrogating what colleagues are doing, showcasing your own masterpieces, and I hope we are going to impact some people today and they are going to be challenged to go and make a difference in the world. We are proud of you postgraduate students, and we believe you are the ones who are going to champion the 4IR. As you know that our VC is responsible for that portfolio, so we only count on you to make it happen. So I want to invite you to be present even in the afternoon session where we focus specifically on 4IR. Enjoy your day. See you in the next session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, and all our esteemed speakers.
Thank you very much. So see you at the next session, which begins in 3 minutes.